Ever caught yourself wondering, did I live the life I really wanted? Heavy question, right? But here's something folks don't talk about enough. A lot of people in their later years look back and feel a deep emptiness for not chasing their dreams. Yup, those things you always wanted to do but kept pushing off can turn into bitter regrets when it's time to look back on life. What if I told you you've got the power to change that now, before it's too late? Meet Margaret Bennett, a 72-year-old woman who lived what looked like an ordinary life. She raised her kids, worked hard as a teacher, even pitched in with the grandkids. But there was something she never told anyone until she opened up to me one day. "I always wanted to write a book," she said, her eyes lighting up with emotion. "But I thought it was selfish. I figured I had to put my family and job first. Now I look back and see I never had the guts to try." Margaret wasn't alone. Studies show one of the biggest regrets for folks in their later years is not going after their dreams. Maybe you've dreamed of traveling the world, learning a new language, starting a business, or just spending more time on what lights you up. But over the years, those wishes got shoved aside, buried under responsibilities and outside expectations. "I convinced myself it was too late," Margaret admitted. "But you know what hit me? It's never too late to start." So, what did Margaret do? She took a simple, bold step. Start small. Instead of tackling a whole novel right off the bat, she began with short stories, jotting down memories, reflections, even some made-up tales. "It was rough at first," she confessed, "but every word I wrote felt like it was filling a piece of that hole inside me." Over time, she realized she wasn't just chasing an old dream. She was inspiring people around her too. But why's this such a big deal? Here's the key. Your dreams are part of what makes you, you. When you ignore them, you're brushing off a core piece of who you are. And that can leave you with a deep sense of regret later on. It's like leaving a wrapped gift in the corner of the room, Margaret told me once. You know it's there, but you never open it. And when you finally decide to, it might be too late. Another trick Margaret picked up? Reframing how she saw time. She figured out she didn't need to do it all at once. She could take it slow, celebrating every little win. "I started seeing time as a teammate, not an enemy," she explained. "Every day was a fresh shot to our coup. Take a step, no matter how small, toward what I really wanted." But heads up, chasing your dreams doesn't mean ditching your duties or sidelining your family. Margaret learned balancing her passions with her obligations was the secret to dodging future frustration. "I didn't have to pick between being a mom and being a writer," she said. "I found ways to be both." Now, think about this. Are you putting off your own dreams, figuring there's no room for them in your life? Maybe you're waiting for the perfect moment or convincing yourself it's too late. What if I told you starting today, even with baby steps, could be the trick to dodging regrets down the road? As Margaret dug into this first secret, she hit something deep. Chasing your dreams isn't just about personal wins. It's about finding meaning in life. It was like every step toward what she loved was her way of telling the universe, "I'm still here, and I've still got plenty to give." But here's a juicy question. What if there are other regrets folks in their later years face, and ways to head them off? Margaret was about to find out, and you're about to learn the next secret too. Now that you get why chasing your dreams matters, it's time to talk about something that hits home for a lot of folks in their later years. Unspoken words. Sounds simple, but here's a tough truth to swallow. Tons of people look back and Regret not telling the people who mattered how much they loved, appreciated, or admired them. What if I told you dodging that regret is easier than you think? Margaret faced this head-on too. After she started chasing her dream of writing, she spotted another gap in her life. Stuff she'd never said to the people she loved. "I always knew my kids meant the world to me," she told me once, her voice tinged with nostalgia. "But I hardly ever said it. I figured they knew." Then one day, at a doctor's visit, she got hit with a curveball. Her longtime best friend had passed away out of the blue. "I froze," Margaret confessed, "because it hit me. I'd never told him how much he meant to me." So, what did Margaret do? She took a simple, life-changing step. She started speaking her feelings. Instead of keeping her words locked up, she let them out. To her family, friends, even casual acquaintances. "I called my daughter and said, 'You know, I've never told you this, but I'm so proud of who you are,' she shared with me. At first, it felt weird, like shedding an old coat I'd worn for years, but then it was freeing. So why's this such a big deal? Here's the key. Saying how you feel isn't just about making others feel good. It's about tying up emotional loose ends before it's too late. When you say, "I love you," or "thank you," you're crafting a memory that can last forever, Margaret explained. Even when people are gone, those words stick around in the minds of whoever heard them. Another trick Margaret picked up? Finding small, meaningful ways to share her feelings. It didn't always need to be a big emotional speech. Sometimes, a text, a handwritten note, or a heartfelt hug did the trick. "I started texting my grandkids stuff like, 'You're special to me,' or 'I'm glad you're in my life,'" she said. And guess what? They started hitting me back with the same vibe. But heads up, spilling your feelings doesn't mean forcing fake or over-the-top talks. Margaret learned authenticity is what counts. It doesn't have to be perfect, she admitted. It just has to be real. Even little moves, like saying thanks to the grocery store cashier or complimenting a neighbor's yard, can spark genuine connections that make everyone's life richer. Now think about this. Are you holding back important words, waiting for the right moment to let them out? Maybe you figure people already know how much they mean to you. Or maybe you're scared of looking soft. What if I told you saying those words now could head off one of life's biggest regrets? As Margaret dug into this second secret, she hit something deep. Sharing love and gratitude isn't just a gift to others. It's mostly for yourself. It was like every word she spoke patched up little emotional wounds she didn't even know she had. But here's a juicy question. What if there are other regrets folks in their later years face, and ways to sidestep them? Margaret was about to find out. And you're about to learn the next secret too. Now that you see why expressing love and gratitude matters, it's time to talk about a regret so many folks in their later years share: not spending time on meaningful relationships. Sounds obvious, but here's a hard truth to face. Lots of people look back and realize they spent years chasing work, routines, or other commitments instead of nurturing the connections that really counted. But what if I told you you've still got time to turn that around? Margaret wrestled with this too. After she started opening up her feelings, she spotted a painful pattern in her life. She'd missed countless chances to be there for the people she loved. "I always figured there'd be more time," she told me once, her voice heavy with regret. "But when you're busy living, you don't notice how fast it flies." A clear example was her bond with her older brother. She'd been super tight with him as a kid, but over the years, they drifted apart, down to just the occasional birthday or holiday text. "I just let life pull us in different directions," Margaret admitted. So, what did Margaret do? She took a bold step. She made her relationships a priority. Instead of waiting for others to reach out, she started actively finding ways to reconnect with the people who mattered. She called her brother after months of silence and pitched grabbing coffee together. It was awkward at first, she confessed, but after some laughs and old stories, it felt like time stood still. So why is this such a game changer? Here's the key. Relationships are the heart of what makes us human. When we invest in them, we build memories, a sense of belonging, and even a support network that can hold us up through life's roughest patches. It's like watering a plant, Margaret explained. Neglect it, and it wilts. Give it some love, and it blooms. Another trick Margaret picked up? Setting up simple rituals to keep her connections alive. She started carving out one afternoon a week to call a different friend or family member. Sometimes it was a quick phone chat, other times an in-person hangout. I didn't need to go big, she said. I just wanted them to know I was thinking about them. Those small moves made her relationships stronger and deeper. But heads up, prioritizing relationships doesn't mean ditching your duties or commitments. Margaret learned to strike a balance, tweaking her schedule to make room for the people who mattered. I started seeing my time as something precious, she explained, and I decided to spend it on who really made a difference in my life. Now, think about this. Are you letting important people slip through the cracks because of the daily grind? Maybe you're so caught up in work, bills, or other stuff that friends, family, or even neighbors get pushed aside. What if I told you, putting more time into your relationships now could dodge one of the biggest regrets when you look back? As Margaret dug into this third secret, she hit something deep. Time's the most valuable thing we've got, and how we choose to spend it shapes how good our life feels. It was like every shared moment was a gift that lifted up both the giver and the receiver. But here's a juicy question. What if there are other regrets folks in their later years face, and ways to sidestep them? Margaret was about to find out, and you're about to learn the next secret too. Now that you see why prioritizing relationships matters, it's time to talk about a regret lots of folks in their later years share. Spending their whole life stuck in a rut, never trying anything new. Sounds simple, but here's the truth. Too many overlook. Living on autopilot can leave you with a deep sense of emptiness when you hit the end of the road. But what if I told you stepping out of your comfort zone, even after 60, can flip your life around? Margaret faced this head-on too. After reconnecting with friends and family, she realized something was still off. Her life had gotten too predictable. I was doing the same stuff every day, she told me once, a little ticked off. Wake up, grab coffee, tackle chores, watch TV, hit the sack. It was like I was stuck in standby mode. Then one day, chatting with a friend, she heard something that shifted her view. You've still got time for adventures, Margaret. It's all up to you. So, what did Margaret do? She took a gutsy step. She broke the routine and tried new things. She started small, joining a local walking group. I was nervous at first, she admitted. But after a few weeks, I was meeting awesome people and finding spots in my own town I didn't even know existed. Pumped by that fresh vibe, she pushed further. She signed up for a painting class, something she'd always wanted to try, but figured wasn't her thing. So why is this such a big deal? Here's the key. Routine might feel cozy, but it can also trap you in a loop of same old, same old. When you shake things up with something new, you're telling the universe and yourself that you're still game to grow and explore. It's like cracking open a window in a dark room, Margaret explained. All of a sudden, everything feels more alive, more colorful. Another trick Margaret picked up? Facing down the fear of flopping. She realized she'd often freeze up, scared she wouldn't be good enough at something new. In painting class, I was the worst one there, she joked. But you know what I found out? Nobody cared. Everyone was too busy trying to get better, just like me. That freeing lesson gave her the guts to try more stuff, like picking up a new language or even taking her first solo trip. But heads up, stepping out of your comfort zone doesn't mean going big or bust right away. Margaret learned small moves can pack a huge punch. I didn't need to climb a mountain or move across the world, she said. I just had to say yes to stuff that shook up the usual. Now, think about this. Are you letting your life run on repeat, with no room for surprises or discoveries? Maybe you figure you've lived enough already, or that it's too late to switch it up. What if I told you, trying something new now could keep you from looking back and wishing your story had more juice? As Margaret dug into this fourth secret, she hit something deep. Life isn't about hitting some finish line. It's about soaking up the ride. It was like every new experience added a page to her life's book, turning it into something one of a kind and worth remembering. But here's a juicy question. What if there are other regrets folks in their later years face, and ways to dodge them? Margaret was about to find out, and you're about to learn the next secret too. We've reached the last secret, but it's no less crucial. Emotional health, too often pushed aside. Sounds simple, but here's a truth few admit. Lots of folks in their later years look back and regret not taking better care of themselves. Yup, you read that right. They spent years putting others first, family, work, friends, but forgot to tune into their own emotional needs. But what if I told you taking care of yourself is the key to living a full life with no regrets? Margaret wrestled with this too. After trying new things and breaking out of her rut, she noticed something still gnawing at her, a deep inner emptiness she couldn't pin down. I was doing everything right, she told me once, frustration creeping into her voice. But I still felt like something was missing inside. Then one day, during a chat with her therapist, she heard a game changer. Have you ever stopped to think about how you're really feeling? So, what did Margaret do? She took a life-shifting step. She put her emotional health first. She started carving out time to check in with her feelings, something she'd never done before. I used to think focusing on myself was selfish, she admitted. But I realized that taking care of me made me better for everyone else too. She began practicing self-compassion, treating herself with the same kindness she'd always given others. So why's this such a big deal? Here's the key. Your emotional health is the foundation for everything you do. When you brush off your feelings, they pile up and can turn into resentment, anxiety, or even depression. It's like ignoring a tiny hole in the roof, Margaret explained. If you don't fix it, it gets bigger and ends up causing way more damage. Another trick Margaret picked up? Pouring time into stuff that feeds the soul. She started doing guided meditation every morning, even if just for 5 minutes. She also set aside afternoons to read uplifting books or jot in her journal. It was like giving myself a little gift every day, she said. And you know what? I started feeling lighter, happier, even more connected to the people around me. But heads up, taking care of yourself doesn't mean shirking your duties or being selfish. Margaret learned self-care is about finding balance. I still help my family and show up for my friends, she explained. But now I know I've got to fill my own cup before I can fill anybody else's. Now, think about this. Are you neglecting your own emotional health? Figuring self-care's a luxury, or no big deal? Maybe you're so wrapped up in helping others that you've forgotten to ask, how am I holding up? What if I told you putting your emotional health first now could dodge one of life's biggest regrets? As Margaret dug into this final secret, she hit something deep. Taking care of herself wasn't just self-love. It was a way to make sure she could keep being a source of support and joy for others. It was like every moment she gave herself was an investment in the quality of her relationships and the richness of her own story. And now, are you ready to sidestep the biggest regrets of your later years? With the 5 secrets we've laid out, from chasing your dreams to tending to your emotional health, you've got the tools in your hands to live regret-free. Remember, it's never too late to start. So, what's the first step you'll take today? Maybe it's writing a letter to someone special, calling a long-lost friend, or just stealing a quiet moment for yourself. Whatever you pick, know you're on the right track to building a life full of meaning, real connections, and personal wins. Because, let's face it, life's too short to carry regrets.